Excuse me. Welcome to the October 24th, 2023, 6:30 p.m. City Council meeting. We do have a quorum, so I'll call this meeting to order. Would you please join me in a moment of silence? And the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk, would you please read the rules to speak?
Yes, sir. Individuals wishing to speak on agenda items must complete a sign-up card prior to the item being introduced. Those wishing to speak on quasi-judicial public hearings must complete a sign-up card and sign the oath. Sign-up and oath cards are available on the table. Individuals wishing to speak on non-agenda items may do so under petitions from the public present. This opportunity is offered twice in the meeting, and individuals may speak at either the first or second petitions, but not both. No sign-up card is required. Citizens shall not comment on any issue more than once during the meeting. All comments except petitions and requests must address the pending issues, and citizens will be given 3 minutes to speak on all items. Citizens wishing to speak on the consent agenda must submit a sign-up card identifying the items of interest. Each speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes to speak on the entire consent agenda. All sign-up cards and exhibits being submitted to City Council shall be placed in the box on the table.
Thank you so much. Can I have the...
Mayor, before you do the minutes, we've provided a hard copy of the minutes adjustment. We found an error in the voting. So the highlight of the error was the motion carried 5-1. The actual motion carried 4-1. So as you adopt the minutes, please.
So that simply means that we will be adopting the addendum too?
Correct.
Okay. So now I need the approval of the motion to approve the regular City Council meeting minutes of July 11th, 2023, September 12th, 2023, and September 26th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m.
So moved with the addendum on July 11th.
Second.
I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed? Minutes are approved. City Manager.
On to boards and commission. Item 6A is the Historic Preservation Board. The terms of regular members Roz Foster, Williams Getkins, Alan Kissel, Joseph Adams, and alternate member Ula Rupp-Crofton will all expire on 31 October 2023. Regular members Foster, Getkins, Kissel, and Adams and alternate member Crofton have expressed their willingness and desire to continue to serve on this board and have requested a reappointment for another 2 years to expire on 31 October 2025. Currently, there are no other applications on file for your consideration.
Council?
I would make, well, we need cards though.
I'm sorry?
We need cards though.
Well, no, but first of all, is there anything anybody wants to say? Anybody want to add?
Yes, I received a call from Ula Crofton this afternoon. She wanted to be here tonight, and she expressed her regret at not being able to be here. She took a fall in the house,
Ooh.
and as she says, I shouldn't show up in public.
Oh, that's not good.
So she sends her regrets.
Okay. Cards, please.
Tony Schiffolo?
You better be on this one.
Tony Schiffolo, the historic Norwood House. While I often stand here to complain to you about something or the other, this time I want to praise your award-winning Historic Preservation Board, an advisory board to you and the city that I'm proud to be a member of. I want to commend you on reappointing these members to another term of service because Chairman Kiesel runs an effective, efficient, and inclusive meeting every month. Members Gajan and Adams bring both local and historic information to the table. Alternate member Crofton brings decades of personal and public Titusville history to the HPB. And member Roz Foster, a gem of historic preservation and a gold mine of historic information. Together, your Historic Preservation Board brings recognition of our past, conservation of our historic structures, and continuation of our town's story. please appoint these people again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Any others?
One more card, Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnston. When I was in high school, I didn't think too much of history because it seems like it was pretty dull. And this is an important thing that you're doing right here as far as selecting these people, because right now is that history is being rewritten all the time. And that includes what you guys are doing out here. You're distorting the history, for example, when you refuse to acknowledge sewage spills and so forth. It's a rewriting of history, and that's not right. So I'm not against these people. I've looked at some of their qualifications, and history is important. I'd like you to stop screwing it up. Thank you.
Okay, Member Nelson.
Move to appoint Foster, Gagins, Kissel, and Adams as regular members to the Historic Preservation Board, and Ula Crofton as the alternate.
I'll second.
Motion from Member Nelson, second from Member Cole. Are we good with that? Yes? Roll call vote?
Member Cole?
Yes.
Member Nelson? Yes. Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Passes unanimously, and thank you all for serving. And City Manager.
On to item 6B, which is Planning and Zoning Commission request for leave of absence. Consider the Planning and Zoning Commission regular member Theodore Gerard's request for leave of absence from the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings on 4 October 2023, 18 October 2023, and 8 November 2023.
Okay, thank you. Cards?
One card, Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnson, I've been to a number of TEC meetings, and you guys are really treating these guys bad, really bad. No, excuse me.
Yeah, you're in the wrong meeting with the wrong thing, and
What, this says P and Z, leave of absence, doesn't
you
it?
just said TEC.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
And we're just trying to decide if we need to approve this guy's
Oh,
leave.
okay.
so
I
we
meant
don't
to,
need
I
an
meant to
inventory.
say it for P and Z, what you're doing, because they've done a number of things that they're bearing up against me. In fact, as recently I said that, I said to them, they're not idiots, they're complete idiots on an issue, because the city manager is doing this.
Stan, you
So
gonna talk
I'm
about his
asking
leave?
you,
Go ahead, just talk
I'm
about his
asking
leave.
you to give him a leave of absence, because he needs a break from what's going on. I mean, I told him, said, you guys aren't idiots, you're complete idiots in what you're doing as far
All
as
right, thank
accepting
you.
what city.
We're good.
Thank you.
Yep.
You're welcome.
Motion?
Move to approve Mr. Gerard's leave of absence from Planning and Zoning Commission meetings on October 4th, October 18th, and November 8th, 2023.
Second.
Motion by Member Nelson, second by Member Cole. Roll call vote?
Member Nelson? Yes. Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Cole?
Passes unanimously. City Manager.
On to item 6C is approved resolution number 29, 2023, appointing and reappointing members of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee.
Okay. Vice Mayor, anything on that?
No.
Okay, no worries. Any cards?
Stan Johnston?
Yes, you are. You are. Affordable Housing Advisory
I know.
Committee.
Okay, I'm going to try to be short, if you believe that or not. But I think what you guys ought to look up, as far as affordable housing, you ought to look up and watch the movie like The Big Short and so forth, about what the federal government has done. Because we still have a lot of those toxic instruments, and like Lehman Brothers and AGI and Bear Stearns and so forth. That stuff is still going on, and no prosecution. That has to do with our funding and so forth for housing. And so what the federal government has done is something that I don't know that how much effect you can have, but it's a mess up big time that you guys shouldn't be solving. Federal government should. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think you've, yeah, okay. Member Nelson?
Can I make
Well, let me go Vice Mayor first.
I won't nominate her, but I'll make a statement that I know that Caitlin is getting involved with affordable housing. And she made the last meeting that we have, and if she's approved, I'm looking forward to working with her in the upcoming year.
And I would, I'm not on the committee there, but I would add to that in everything I've seen her do, it's with a caring and a sharing, trying to help other people. I think that's pretty much her MO, trying to help other people. And I think this is a great place for her to be able to exercise that a little bit more. So thank you for applying. Yes, ma'am, Member Nelson.
And I want to say, I don't know if our vice mayor knows this, but she was one of the people helping on the Carter House.
Oh, I'm aware of that.
Yeah, I didn't know if you knew that. So anyway,
I've seen her face at least twice.
at least twice. So I would move to appoint Kayla Manning to the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee.
I have a motion.
Oh, thank you.
I have a second from
I
Member
think
Stokoe.
What we're looking for is you to approve the resolution.
That's true.
Approve
So
the
it'd be part of
resolution.
that, but yeah, we need to reword that for resolution.
Approve resolution number 29-2023, appointing Kayla Manning to the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee.
No, ma'am, it's
No?
appointing and reappointing the other members.
Yeah, there's,
To
Oh, wait a
include
minute,
the
yeah, you're
reappointment.
right. Sorry, I got
yeah, there's like 4 of them.
So that's my motion.
And the
Thank you.
second still stands.
Are we good?
Leave Kayla there by herself.
So what do we need to do with that we didn't do?
This particular board is by resolution.
Right.
So you're approving the resolution that appoints and reappoints certain members.
So it's a
And
resolution that includes the new appointment plus the reappointment of the
Yes-
existing
yes, ma'am.
members.
All right, now Member Nelson's ready.
So yes, so we are appointing Kayla Manning as a new member, and
Yeah, all you have to do is approve the resolution, ma'am.
we'll approve the resolution. How about that? Okay.
Okay, we have the motion to approve the resolution from Member Nelson. I have a second.
Yes.
From Member Stokoe. Roll call vote.
Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Cole? Yes. Member Nelson?
Thank you all for being on this very important committee. And Kayla, thank you for being new there. Thank you. Petitions and requests from the public? Oh, I see none.
Thank you, sir. Okay, you got a handout, but the handout is what I sent to you today. It's an email. It's an email, and Wanda, I gave Wanda a hard copy. So this has to do with, it's an email to Mayor Dan Diesel and to council. That's who it's to. But it's also copied, I'm going to read from there. It's copied to City Manager Scott Luis, who is guilty of, 1, a $70,000 fraud. That's this guy right here. And number 2, spraying of women, children, and babies with piss and poop. I'm talking about Mr. Luis. And number 3, more than 20 other serious problems and violations of laws that council seeks to cover up. What this email has to do with is your what? Your admission of guilt of corruption by council and your collusion with city manager on this. I think you should read it. Again, in other words, this is an admission of guilt of your corruption and dishonesty and fraud and violation of laws in collusion with your city manager. I really think you should read it. It's an admission of guilt by you guys. But when you praise this guy and give him exceeds the expectations on 125 things, like I said, it's like you've said that this guy's Jesus. And you're not recognizing the problems that you've got. You're not recognizing spraying. I mean, the city of Titusville is the only city in the whole world that deliberately sprays women, children, and babies with piss and poop. The only city in the whole world. And you still will do it. You haven't gone back from it. You will continue to spray women, children, and babies with poop deliberately. 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 Well, God, I think, well, this is a sin, and I'm disgusted with what you guys done and what you're doing. So this is what this letter is talking about. Is I'm an expert witness in this particular area, and what you've done is not bad. It's horrible. You guys are not idiots. You're complete idiots. You're fools, shysters. Well, we've got shysters and so forth. And he's a shyster and hustler, and he's leading you the wrong way. And by golly, you guys are following. And this admission, I'm asking for 10 minutes on this because you guys need to respond. You should understand is that what I say is you're not idiots, you're complete idiots on this. I'm ashamed of you. Shame on you. Shame on you. Okay, I'd like another, can you give me another 5 minutes?
I see none.
Well, I got another second left. But you guys, I mean, I'm praying for you guys, but I don't. It's not going to work because you've got to do the work. You need to get rid of him. Thank you. Rid of the stink.
Any other? Hi, how are you? Yeah, it's way up there.
I'll
Well, you
stay
can
on
bring
my
it down.
toes.
You bring it way down. Yeah,
All
there
right.
you go.
Elizabeth Baker, Augustine Drive. I want to thank you very much, Mr. Cook, for listening to us when we were talking about Scobie Park. Still a little disappointed that it took 4 months to get some action over there, but the no-mow zone over there is incredible. It's working. There's life over there. It looks so much better. It's night and day from what it was in early June when I started going over there and noticing the problems. I still have some concerns about the water. I still have concerns about notifying the public that is swimming in the water that we know has E. coli and coliform in the water. But, maybe this is just one example of how the council and the members of the city can work with the residents. When we see something wrong, we're not up here just to yell at people. I want to see positive change and positive action when things like this happen. And this is just one very small example of how that can work. There was a problem, you were notified, and eventually some action was taken. And, maybe after seeing this, we can look around the city and see where other no-mow zones could be established. It would be amazing to see wildflowers all over the place. That's it. Thanks.
Hold up, I have a button, but I do want to say before she even speaks, that's very well said.
Thank you.
Very well presented, and, sometimes it's not even what you say, sometimes it's how you say it, and it's to what I can take in, and I just learned something right there.
No,
So, I heard a lot about the no-mow zone, and we weren't sure, is that a good idea? And so I appreciate that they cooperated with you, and we were able to move forward. So, Member Nelson.
I was going to say thank you. And with any kind of luck, we'll get an appropriation, and the muck will be gone from there, and it will look even better.
I see the plants just uptaking so much of what was already there. Like you may not even need it. Mother
That would be
Nature
great.
absolutely knows what she's doing if we just give her a chance.
Yeah.
Very
Thank
good,
you.
thank you. Any other? No, I don't have cards. Anybody else? Okay, City Manager.
On to consent, agenda items A through J. Council, do you have any questions of staff?
I see none.
Council, do you want to pull any items of consent A through J for further discussion?
Again, I see none.
Clerk, are there any cards? Mayor, I'd like to read for the record the titles of
Thank you.
consent. Consent agenda item 8A, approve the reallocation of American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funds for the Neighborhood Services Project. Consent agenda item 8B, approve the purchase of equipment for Public Works. Consent agenda item 8C, approve Fox Lake Hammock amendment to the declaration coveted conditions and restrictions. Consent agenda item 8D, approve resolution number 28, 2023, approving a temporary road closure for state roads for special event Astronaut High School Homecoming Parade on 26 October 2023. Consent agenda item 8E, approve the purchase of an F-250 Super Cab 4x4 with utility-style service body for Public Works. Consent agenda item 8F, approve the use of Seminole County contract for the fire hydrant maintenance and flushing services. Consent agenda item 8G, approve Spaceview Park MST investigation and response plan. Consent agenda item 8H, approve the state revolving fund amendment 2 to the loan agreement. Consent agenda item 8I, approve FY 2024 corrected budget amendment. Consent agenda item 8J, approve the 2023-24 State Housing Initiative Program SHIP grant allocation budget amendment.
Thank you very much. When you call the card, is there a notification of what he's going to speak on?
Stan Johnston for 8A, G, and I.
Thank you.
Okay, Stan Johnston, 8A, G, and I. All these items involve money. And what has happened is you guys are not very well, and with the city manager, aren't spending money very well. It seems like you do not know what you're doing. So I'm going to read this from you. I'm going to read this from this correspondence that I sent you. It says, please be reminded that the city of Titusville, I wrote this, city of Titusville has the noble distinction for probably being the only city in the world that didn't know that its citywide boiled water alerts were due to city councils and water resources ignorance and or stupidity, I think it's both of them at least, regarding city's water treatment process failure to meet the 4-log virus water treatment requirement that should have been remedied over 10 or possibly maybe over 20 years ago. So what are you guys doing now? Finally, there was an admission that it's a problem. So let me go for, also please be reminded that the city of Titusville and FDEP both have the notorious distinction to claim that there exists other cities in Florida that have this problem. Okay, they've done it, but they have been unable to remember any of them that do. How about that? You may be the only city that we know of that although people say, hey, there's more, they haven't been able to find any. So what are you guys doing? Okay, I'm talking about money and these items. This year, the city is now budgeting over $5 million to fix this problem that should have been done years ago. And remember that there was what I've told you is that there was a restaurant in the city of Titusville, I believe was $30,000 in one day because of this citywide boiled water alerts. Hey, you're supposed to care for the city, and you don't know what's going on. Neither does he. This is horrible. This is really horrible. You need to wake up. This is bad. And also I wrote down here, it says, please be reminded the city of Titusville has the notorious distinction for probably being the only city in the world, okay, that already has an expensive working recycled water system and is now spending an extra over $13.5 million. I'm going to say $13.5 million of taxpayers' money to operate its recycled water treatment process by removing more nitrogen and phosphorus, which will reduce the water's value for irrigation of plant life. In other words, this is counterproductive, and now will require more fertilizer to replace the nitrogen and phosphorus that you remove from the irrigation water.
Thank you.
I'm not asking for another 5 minutes.
I don't see any. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Wake up.
All right, we need a motion to approve consent agenda.
Move to approve consent agenda, items 8A through 8G.
Jay?
Jay.
Jay, second.
I have a motion from Member Nelson, a second from Member Cole. Roll call vote.
Vice Mayor Robinson,
Yes.
Member Stokel,
Yes.
Member Cole,
Yes.
Member Nelson, Mayor Diesel.
Yes, passes unanimously. City Manager.
On to item 9A, which is Resolution 26, 2023, updated surplus property list for affordable housing. In accordance with Florida statute, municipalities shall prepare and publish a list of city-owned properties that may be suitable for affordable housing development triennially. Staff has reviewed the existing adopted list under Resolution 2-2023 and has updated the list accordingly to include additional properties that may be suitable for affordable housing. Staff is seeking council's acceptance of the amended list upon the public hearing of the same, and staff recommends approval of Resolution 26, 2023, to amend the surplus property list for affordable housing and conduct the public hearing.
Mr. Brad, you have anything for us, or?
No, sir. This is just a special requirement from the Live Local Act.
All right, council, anything? Call the cards?
Tony Schifelo,
Schifelo, Tropic Street. There's a tsunami coming to West Titusville, locally labeled Canaveral Heights. Wave after wave of environmental degradation by the state's Live Local Act, ironically removing local control of zoning issues, by the city's Vision for Tomorrow plans for the only urban mixed-use zoning district in town, to remove neighborhood stability by eliminating zoning setbacks and infill regulations for this area, thus allowing multifamily rental units in a neighborhood filled with owner-resident single-family homes. With 11 of the 12 listed city-owned properties suitable for affordable housing situated in the target area of West Titusville, I fear for the Kimley Horn recommendations concerning infill development, and especially the density and height bonuses to be awarded for conglomerating 2 or more lots. These proposed regulations do nothing to support the construction of single-family or small multi-unit housing in styles conforming to the prevalent styles, scale, and ambience of the area. How many of my neighbors were grown adult children living in the family home they grew up in now that the parents are gone? Or siblings wondering what to do with the house now that the family parents are gone? You know, how many will get postcards or letters like these offering, I want to buy your house. No closing costs, no need for repairs. No, nothing to do but give it to me, and I'll conglomerate and get lots of money and build a really tall structure in this little, pardon me, I was going to stay on script. How many of the rest of us will be able to afford the taxes to stay in our homes as our quiet, homey neighborhood annexes to downtown merely because we're conveniently located across the railroad tracks? That used to be a detriment, you know. We're poor, and we've been up till now neglected. I'm not opposed to the restoration of my historic neighborhood. However, I am encouraging thoughtful, cohesive planning for this area, especially as development requests come in and people with some money want to buy these lots from the city. I urge you to direct staff to be very careful approving applications for this target area, West Titusville.
Thank you. Another card?
Stan Johnston,
My name is Stan Johnston, and I'm talking about what I did when I was employed by the city, is that I was given a list of properties that the city wanted to go ahead and put up for having the public auction on the, and so when I went over the list and I looked at them, and I was ashamed what the city is doing. Ashamed. Is that because even years ago, before I received this list, the city of Titusville had them on another list. And so I went and researched a number of these properties. And so I went to the city and city attorney and said, listen, hey, you've got pipes, big stormwater pipes that you put under these lots. And why in the world would you be selling them? You're supposed to put an easement there to recognize the stormwater. I mean, we're talking about 24-inch and bigger storm sewer pipes, right? Somewhere right through the middle of the property. And so what did the city do? They pretty much ignored me. They took those out, but unfortunately, they built a pretty good sized building. I think it was a duplex right over top of a storm sewer. no easement whatsoever. They went ahead and built it. So I'm not going to look at your list this time. I'm not going to babysit you. But the city of Titusville has been grossly negligent for doing it again and again and again. So I'm not going to look at your list and review it. So you can pay the penalty, because I've repeatedly warned the city about this, and they were supposed to do it with the TIP program, Titusville Improvement Program. They didn't do it. And I even contacted and say, you know, the Water Resource Plan, go ahead, you're supposed to get these done, but of course they'd have to pay the city surveyor to do that. And they would say, it costs too much. Believe that stuff? Believe that stuff? We got a surveyor to prepare the descriptions, and they'll say, well, it costs too much. Wow, what kind of stupidity is that? That wasn't this city manager, but somehow, I don't know whether it even got to the city manager. So good luck on what you do. I hope that you don't sell somebody a pig in a poke like you've done before. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Any other cards? Okay, Member Nelson.
Move to approve resolution number 26-2023 to amend its surplus property list for affordable housing.
Second.
I have a motion from Member Nelson, second by Member Cole. Roll call vote.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Cole? Yes. Member Nelson?
Yes.
Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Passes unanimously. City Manager.
On to item 9B, which is ordinance number 49-2023, industrial conditional use permits. City Attorney will read the ordinance for the record.
Ordinance number 49-2023, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances by reclassifying certain industrial uses from conditional uses to permitted or limited uses by amending Section 2854 Use Table, Section 28209 to allow laboratory research and testing as a permitted use in hospital medical HM and light industrial services M1 zoning districts, amending Section 28214 to allow mini warehouse as a limited use in highway industry infill M3, downtown mixed use Midtown DMU-M, and regional mixed use industrial park RMU 500 zoning districts, and amending Section 28222 to allow warehousing wholesale as a limited use in highway industrial infill M3 zoning district, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, incorporation into the code, and an effective date.
On 10 May 2022, City Council directed staff to evaluate existing conditional uses within the code and provide recommendations on those which are overly restricted, outdated, and those that should be reclassified as limited or permitted uses. Staff recommends certain changes to the current code in order to enhance usability of the code while protecting the property rights of industrial property owners. On 4 October 2023, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval with the following change: to maintain the CUP requirements for laboratory, mini warehouses, warehouse, and wholesale uses if located within 500 feet of a residential use. And Mr. Parrish is here to provide you an update on this ordinance.
Vice Mayor.
Yes, Brett, just one question on this, and I understand a lot of the changes, but where it says that regional mixed use for industrial park, is that going to be in conflict or in harmony with where we're going with the Live Local Act?
Can you point me to which page you're referring to or which section of the ordinance?
Right, I'm just, it's actually the first page, what the attorney just read. Page 442, 422.
So there are several classifications inside the regional mixed-use zoning district, and one of them is 500, which is industrial. So the question is, will that particular district that's in there, if it's utilized by the developer, could that be utilized for a local qualifying project? It's possible. Right now, that particular sub-district of that overall zoning district is not being utilized by the developer. So it's not even placed on any particular piece of property at the moment.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Member Nelson?
Brad, how does staff feel about the recommendation of planning and zoning?
We don't have any objection to it.
Okay.
Very good. Any other cards? Cards?
One card, Stan Johnston.
Industrial uses.
I'd like to just say nothing about this because I haven't either.
Right.
But I would like to remark on compatibility, and that is that you'll see in town and a lot of places is that there's been a railroad put through here years ago. And it so happens that people built very near the railroads. And fact is that my understanding is we've got a bunch of railroad babies. I don't know if you understand what that means. They were conceived about 4 o'clock in the morning. But as far as compatibility goes, is that, you see, the noise and so forth like that, they went ahead and chose to build their houses there, fully knowing about all this other stuff, about 4 o'clock in the morning and so forth. Some guys went for that.
Stand. Okay, no other cards, right? Okay. I'm still getting over that one. All right, let's go. Member Nelson?
Move to approve ordinance number 49-2023, industrial conditional use permits with the change made by planning and zoning.
Second.
Motion by Member Nelson, second by Member Cole. Roll call vote.
Member Cole?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Robinson?
Yes,
Mayor Stokel?
Yes.
Passes unanimously. City Manager.
On to item 9C, which is ordinance number 51, 2023, accessory dwelling unit ordinance. And we inadvertently in your packet left out the strike through and underline, so you have that hard copy on the dais
Okay,
for the strike
okay.
through and underline. And city attorney will read ordinance 51, 2023 for the record.
Ordinance number 51, 2023, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances related to standards for accessory dwelling units by amending Chapter 28 zoning, Section 28-351 accessory dwelling unit, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, an effective date, and incorporation into the code.
This is the first reading and first public hearing. The second reading and final public hearing is scheduled for the regular City Council meeting on 14 November 2023. On the 18 October 2023, Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the accessory dwelling unit ordinance as presented with change to section 28-31 or 351C1E to have the minimum of 300 square feet and a maximum of 950 square feet. The 35% stays the same. The approval was 7-0. Mr. Parrish is here to provide information on this ordinance.
Just to reiterate, this is a first reading. There's no motion and no vote. Any comments from council on this first reading? I see none. Oh, hold on. I take it back.
When I was in the meeting with city manager, you pointed out the architectural compatibility, and I was looking for it in this. Is this in the ordinance? If it's of certain size, the accessory facility has to be architecturally compatible with the existing facility?
Correct. On the handout to you on the second page, the very bottom, paragraph I.
Okay, got it.
And that's where it states that architectural compatibility if the accessory dwelling unit is 20% or more of the ratio of the primary building.
Okay, but if it's not 20%, then it doesn't have to be compatible with the existing building.
It doesn't have to look like the building, basically. So the way we've applied this architectural compatibility language, which is already existing in another section of the code about accessory structures, is mainly we'll generally look at not the material of the building itself, but we may look at the shingles or if it's going to be metal roof or the color of the building. And that's what we look at when we apply the compatibility standard.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Member Stokel?
Yep, I was just wondering, Brad, if you could just summarize, since we already did have an ordinance, I see that
this is changing a couple things. What will that look like if passed?
Sure. So on the handout, you see everything that's not strike through underlined. That's existing language. What's being struck out is what's being removed, and what's being underlined here is what's being added. So the main changes that the Planning and Zoning Commission had recommended and you had approved to go forward with this ordinance is to remove the language about, or the limitation about having, about the one parking space from two parking spaces down to one. Removing the requirement that the owner of the property shall reside in either the principal building or the accessory building. They also suggested taking out language or revising the language relating to the size of the, or the ratio of the accessory dwelling unit versus the, or size of the accessory dwelling unit versus this in ratio to the principal building. So initially it said 25%, and I'm looking at paragraph E. Now they're proposing 35%, so they're increasing it. So in other words, the accessory dwelling unit could be a little bigger. Now with the Planning and Zoning Commission at their last meeting, just before tonight, it suggested an additional change. In their motion, they recommended in that same paragraph, E, to change the minimum size of the ADU from 400 square feet to 300 square feet. And then the maximum, increase it from 600 square feet to 950 square feet. So this is new. And that's not in the strike-through version that you see right there. That's their motion they made in the last meeting.
So, sorry, just to clarify. So let's say we have a single-family residential neighborhood. What would this look like if this ordinance were to pass? Like, they have, with especially this parking spot, like it says off-street parking. So they would have to have a parking area within their property?
The original language allowed you to put, so right now, a detached single-family home has to provide 2 off-street parking spaces. So a driveway somewhere on there, it's got to be.
So they have to have
2
enough
spaces.
land to have an additional driveway as of right now?
Sure. So if, the way the language is written right now, if you want to have an additional residential unit on your property, such as this ADU, then you can go up to 2 parking spaces. That's now 4 somewhere on there. So I think what the commission was really trying to get at was to only say that an ADU really should only have 1 extra space because it's a smaller unit versus the bigger house. So they're making it more limited here. So they're saying that if the detached single-family home at minimum has already provided 2 spaces, and if they want to have later on an accessory dwelling unit on the property, they'll be entitled to have 1 additional space on their property for that parking.
I guess my concern with the way how it reads, it says no more than 1. So my concern would be somebody has an accessory dwelling unit. They don't have space to do a parking spot. So that person's just parking on the street and we don't have any, because we allowed them to have a dwelling unit. We did not require them to have a parking spot to get that. And now they're just parking on the street permanently. The way this reads to me. Because it says no more than 1 rather than you have to have 1.
Correct. So if the area of the neighborhood where this is being proposed allows on-street parking, they could utilize that. And there are several areas, there's a few areas in the city that do that. But the majority of the city does not allow it. So a typical subdivision with R1B zoning,
Yes.
it's a pretty standard zoning district for single-family homes. Generally, most of those areas do not have, you still have to provide some on-street or off-street, rather, parking spaces on your property.
Okay.
This right here, if that area allows on-street parking, it potentially could not have to put it in this extra space or not want to if they're able to use that on-street parking space.
So if on-street parking is not allowed and somebody were to get approved a dwelling unit and then they find that somebody's living there and now that person's parking in the street, what recourse do they have?
Sure. So they would have, so if on-street parking is not allowed and they're, they've already got the 2 minimum on the property, they want to add
Correct.
an ADU, they're going to need to accommodate parking somewhere for this particular additional unit. So I think what you're asking is, would we require it?
Right,
in
so
that
they're
case?
going to put in their application for this dwelling unit. Is that going to be part of the process to show us where you're going to park?
I don't think it reads that it would be required.
Right, and I think that's my concern is I don't want to be too restrictive because I want them to be, and I kind of I see P and Z's rationale here for kind of changing the square footage. If they have their property, they want to give them a little bit more flexibility. That makes sense to me. What I don't want to see happen is an effect of that impacting the neighborhood potentially. Like I want the private property owner to be able to do what they want with their piece of property and give them that flexibility, but I want to make sure that they are providing what's needed and not just doing the bare minimum and getting by with it, and we have nothing to help out the neighborhood if it becomes a concern. That's my issue.
Okay.
So
Hold up.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I wanted to ask Member Stokoe, were you wanting them to include a requirement for the parking in the yard, whether there was on-street parking or not? Is that?
Yes, I kind of want it to be shown. So say that they do have obviously there would be somebody living there. And I would want them to show where would that person be parking? Do they have space on their property, or they're like, oh, we don't have to show that, we don't know, and then that person just ends up parking in the street?
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Vice Mayor.
Yes, I mean, Sarah did cover it. When you say on this a maximum of 600 square feet, you have to have a lot of land to put a 600 square foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good sized piece of property, and you got to put all the infrastructure in as well as far as the sewage and all of that. So when you're dealing with that, if you got enough land to put a 600 square foot place in your backyard, I think, as you stated, you're going to have enough to drive up on the grass in that particular place. Yeah, that's a big place.
That's rural. That's a ranch. Member Nelson.
So maybe what we need to say is they should provide one parking space if off-street parking is not available. So you have to have your 2 parking spaces plus your 1, unless there is off-street parking or on-street parking, off-street parking, where you can park in the street.
Right. However, the best verbiage that we can to make sure it's
Yeah.
part of the application, or the application would get denied if it doesn't show that.
We understand.
Right.
So when we make a change, it's not a major change, I don't think, but make a change like that, it would still come back as a second reading?
This doesn't sound to me like a significant change. I think it doesn't require, at least I don't read it as would have to require a re-advertisement based on what you're suggesting.
All right, that's what I was wondering. No worries, I didn't think it was either. Okay,
Sorry.
go ahead, Member Stowe.
Yep, one more thing. Just with the P and Z's recommendations on this minimum and maximum, do you see any concerns with that if we were to change it? Given that I would assume they'd still have to meet, depending on the piece of their property, if they have an eighth of an acre, like they obviously might not meet the setbacks to do a larger one. Do you see any concerns with that running into issues?
I don't. I did a few calculations on some standard zoning districts, minimum size of units. The 35% threshold is a little more flexible, but it still controls the size of the unit versus the house. So in every scenario I looked at, it looked like it worked.
Okay, thank you.
All right, nothing else from council on this first reading. Call the cards.
1 card, Stan Johnston.
Accessory dwelling unit ordinance.
Stan Johnson, I'm for this ordinance, and I really don't think you need to complicate it with the having somebody to look for parking spaces and so forth. Like we've got somebody on the street who built an accessory building years ago, and they put their mother-in-law in there. Mother-in-law may or may not have a car at all. So I just think it's complicating. And I also think about if I was living in an area which I had agricultural use of land, and we used to have that agricultural zoning. I don't know if we still do or not, but in a lot of cases, you didn't even, in my understanding, you didn't really have to get a building permit in some of the stuff you built. So, I mean, you can build quarters for people who come there temporarily to do labor and things like that, and it doesn't it's not even under the building code. That's what I believe. Now, maybe we don't have that anymore. So I think you're making regulations too big and too cumbersome, and that I don't think you need to add anything about the parking. It's just it's something we should already have, and I've seen it's workable, and it'll help the people who, for example, families that don't have to buy another house because they put their let's say their children or grandparents or something in an accessory building right there next to them, so they can eat meals and so forth like that. So I encourage you to be lax on this and give it some air. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. Well said. No other card? All right, City Manager.
On to item 10A, which is ordinance number 50, 2023, wireless in the rights of way. City Attorney will read for the record.
Ordinance number 50, 2023, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances to implement the Advanced Wireless Infrastructure Deployment Act, adopting regulations related to placement, maintenance, and replacement of wireless and other communications facilities in the public rights-of-way, providing registration and permitting procedures, insurance and bonding requirements, objective design standards, waivers, safety and enforcement provisions, by amending Chapter 17, Streets, Sidewalks, and Certain Other Public Places, Section 1783, Registration, and by creating Article 5, Wireless Communication Facilities Right-of-Way Regulations, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, incorporation into the code, and an effective date.
This is the first reading. The public hearing is scheduled for the regular City Council meeting on 14 November 2023 at 6:30. Mr. Parrish is here to answer any questions that you may have on this.
Council, any questions for Mr. Parrish? Seeing none, call the cards.
One card, Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnson, I'd like y'all to use your heads on this one, because I've seen some ordinances passed, similar ordinances to this, and since I've been a surveyor for about 25 years, I think you should listen to what I have to say. I'm very disappointed when somebody puts an ordinance saying that it must be, let's say, 18 inches or whatever below the top of the ground, and whereas my monuments may be allowed to be deeper than that, because I put them like 2 inches or 4 inches clearance maybe down in the ground, so I can penetrate a utility, and yet how am I going to be guilty of that? And just think about this: is that I'm not just putting something in a right of way when I put a pin. There's oftentimes easements beyond the right of way in which that's where the utilities are. So I'm putting my monuments right there where utilities are, and I do not want to penetrate them. And if you make an ordinance says that they have to be such a distance under there, and then I go ahead and penetrate it, I think it's your fault. So I would like you to look into the matter, and that is the length of monuments, allowable concrete, like iron bars and so forth that I put in, and give it some clearance, 4-inch clearance at least, so I can put it in under the ground, and so it's not disturbed. So please consider that when you do it. Don't be a dummy. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. Any other cards? No motion, no votes. First reading. City Manager.
We have no old business. We're on new business, item 12A, which is the proposed class action settlement for PFAS public water systems. The city has been notified of legislation which has been received preliminary approval by the United States District Court of the District South Carolina. The current settlement agreement are for both class action settlements designed to resolve claims for PFAS contamination in public water systems, drinking water, as defined in respective agreements. Based on staff's initial review of the proposed settlement, the City of Titusville will qualify for Phase 2 public water system claims. In order to be able to file a claim under the settlement agreement, the City of Titusville will be required to complete additional testing at individual sources, wells, beyond the requirement of the EPA and PFAS, including testing of the city's systems. The test cannot be used for EPA purposes under CMR 5 and must be submitted as part of the settlement council prior to June 30th, 2026 for the DuPont settlement and July 31st, 26 for the 3M settlement. The city will need to test approximately 55 water production wells within Area 2 and 3 and provide the results to the settlement attorney. Based upon the wells to be tested, the cost of testing inclusively for the class action suit shall be between $30,000 and $36,000. The cost for the testing may be reimbursable under the terms of the settlement agreement. Mr. Cook is here to answer any questions that you may have on this.
Mr. Cook, anything you want to add on this, this suit or just questions?
Yeah, just two minor things. There are two parties, 3M and DuPont currently, that are the settlements in two different categories. So they're two separate items. And then we listed in the item, we do have deadlines in December for if we are to opt out. We have to make that decision to opt out by December, 2 different dates in December before. That's a deadline in the settlement agreement. And then, like the city manager said, we're testing in Area 2 and 3. We did exclude Tifa because it was not a publicly owned water supply. So we're only testing the city-owned infrastructure, which is 2 and 3. So.
Okay. Any questions from the council? Member Stokel?
Yep. Kevin, do you know this testing, how does this testing differ from the other testing that we're doing for PFAS?
So the UCMR testing is done at point of entry, which is post-treatment. This is tested at the well, which will be raw water. So this testing would be testing we would use in the future if we continue down the road of seeing PFAS and we have to make adjustments to our water treatment system. We would go back to our wells and test them at that point. So this is giving us an opportunity to test early onto the wells.
Okay.
Normally, UCMR testing is at a finished water product, not at raw. So these tests are required at raw. The other difference is that because they're using it for this settlement agreement, they aren't requiring things that are in the EPA required testing, like blanks to be taken to the site. Some other items that are required under EPA collection protocols, they aren't requiring for this because it's setting for the settlement only.
We'll be able to use these results for our own purposes as well.
Yeah, for our
obviously.
purposes, we certainly can use them.
Okay.
And they would be like I said, they would be necessary in the future as we're looking for PFAS in the source water. We'd be doing these tests anyway. This is just giving us an advancement on it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Member Nelson?
So am I hearing you correctly? We're not testing Area 4 well fields.
Correct. This is for public water systems only.
Okay.
So it's a public-private partnership, not a public water system.
Okay. Got it.
Anything else from council? Call the cards, please.
Still Bailey?
That's fine. I mean, it's okay for me.
First of all, I want to say, do not blame Mr. Cook for this. He inherited this problem from Sean Stauffer, who really did a bad job of it, really bad job. I want you to remember this poster right here, 176 parts per trillion. That's way, way, way in excess of what you should allow. Way, way. It's crazy. And that was tested, and it was in the national paper, The Guardian. So what did you do? You did it just like that. That's what this guy said. Ignore it. Ignore it. And you ignored this. I spent all my time making this sign and you ignored it. And you still do. So you deserve, the city of Titusville deserves what you guys did. You ignored it. And the city of Titusville, you deserve to be sued. Big time. Big time. Because you didn't do it. You didn't do it. So many people asked you to test it. And what'd you do? Oh, we'll test it later. And I sent all kinds of correspondence asking you guys to do some testing of the wells. I even gave you a program of how to find it. It would be much cheaper than this method. Maybe they do it anyways. But you guys deserve to be sued on this because you screwed it up. And in this case, you're not just like, again, you're not idiots. You're super idiots. Stump stupid in what you did. You're supposed to take care of the public. You're supposed to take care of the public. I was talking about feed my sheep. You don't feed your sheep piss and poop. You're supposed to take care of the public. That's my job. And I keep reminding you, what do? You ignore me. You don't give me extra time. And right now, you guys are in collusion and corruption with this guy right here. It's obvious, and I told you about your admission of guilt. Shame on you guys. Shame on you. Shame on all of you. I can't understand what you're doing. You're not listening. You're not listening at all. This is way off. You guys went way out of bounds as far as your stupidity on this. On many things, like just spraying children with piss and poop. That's stupid. So you deserve this. You deserve to be sued big time. And maybe someday I'll meet you in court and I'll have to testify about what you guys did. Because it's going to follow you the rest of your life and your children and your grandchildren. Those documents that are recorded in ORB pages, those affidavits, they were going to outlast you and outlast your children and your grandchildren. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead and sit
Can I
down.
have another minute?
No, you're good. You just got done, said thank you. Kevin, just to clarify, we are deciding if we're going to be part of a lawsuit.
Yes, we're deciding if we're opting out of a class action suit.
Are we going to be in or be out of the class action
Yes, sir.
suit? We are not being sued.
Correct.
We are not being sued.
We're receiving potentially money from the lawsuit.
Idiots that we are. We are not being sued. We are deciding if we're going to be part of a class action lawsuit, and I'm looking forward to some information that will be valuable information. And there's been testing done.
Yes, we did point of entry testing in July of this year on both our point of entry at our water plant and our connection to the COCO.
So when you said there's been no testing and we're getting sued, 2 foul balls. All right, come on up. Thank you for being here.
Of course. I could not be here
Well,
with
I
this.
kind of thought, I was looking around at first, and then you came in.
Well, I am Stell Bailey from Cocoa, Florida, and first and foremost, I do want to say thank you to the few of you who did meet with me, who came to the table, who had these discussions. It is a very complex situation with perfluorinated compounds.
Real quick, I would
Yeah,
say
go ahead.
probably 75% of everything I know about PFAS, and that's still not a lot, I learned in our meeting. Don't misunderstand me, I get a lot from staff. But then again, when I first was sitting with you, I think that was like the second day I ever really heard of PFAS. So I appreciate it.
And for those of you that did support me, you supported a military family. My husband served in the military. So our service members are the most impacted, and so are our firefighters, because they were exposed to the AFFF firefighting foam that got into our waterways, and it also comes from aerospace manufacturing and other sources. As you know, we did independent testing throughout the past few years. We were finding it's interesting because we're finding 176 parts per trillion in one spot, and then we're getting barely a detect in another spot. So we're working with experts to figure out why that is. Is it because they're close to a source? Is it because it's in the floodwater? So we're still learning and we're still navigating that. And if you want to watch the live stream that we did with our academic partners that we've been working with for the past 3 years, where we collected 500 data points, you can find that directly on our website, fightforzero.org, under the UF project tab. I also want to point out tonight that the city didn't put PFAS in the water. It's usually a misconception. When people hear about contamination, they get fearful. You guys didn't do this. And I felt that I really needed to put that on the record. It's about how you handle it that matters. And I'm for this because the taxpayers, the utilities, the cities should not have to carry the burden of cost on any of this. It should be the manufacturers of the chemicals. They knew since the 70s that this stuff was harming the environment, it was harming human health, and they continued to allow it to be used knowing that. And it didn't come out until about 2016 is when people really started investigating this and learning about it. And then that DOD report came out in 2018, which is when we got heavily involved after learning that our cancer was likely caused by this environmental exposure here on the Florida Space Coast. It's documented in my medical records that it was likely environmentally caused. I also had genetic testing done that showed no mutation genes. And so this is personal for me.
You want another minute?
Oh, yes, please, if I could.
Truthfully, I would like to hear a little bit more.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you for the extra minute. So please participate in this. Allow them to take that burden of cost off the taxpayers, the utilities. We've never blamed the cities. We don't think you guys personally went there and put this chemical inside the water supplies, the groundwater. We know that it was caused by a chemical company that knew for decades. I also want to thank you, and I hope that you will continue to support our efforts to continue making changes like an amendment to the PACT Act to cover our veterans under the VA that were exposed to this, because PFAS is not added into that PACT Act. So we are working on that currently in Washington, D.C. And always remember, we do have resources. We have toxicologists, epidemiologists, we have scientists. So we're here as a resource for the community, always have been. And with that being said, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Vice Mayor.
Could you give me, I'm somewhat familiar with AFFF. Could you tell me an update on what you found out on AFFF and the
Hazardous waste designation that's coming up in Washington, D.C.
Correct.
So I was just currently in Washington, D.C., and they're trying to designate PFAS as a hazardous substance.
Not PFAS, AFFF.
AFFF. They're phasing out AFFF. So there's movement on that end. So I don't think we're going to be dealing with that. I am working with firefighters because they have it in their turnout gear, and that's another issue. And there are alternatives to that turnout gear and to the AFFF. So they are phasing that out. And there is a hazardous waste discussion. The utilities are a little nervous about that because 3M and DuPont continue to go to the utilities and kind of fearmonger and tell them, well, you're going to carry this cost when it's really 3M and DuPont that are going to carry that cost.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Yeah.
Council, any other cards? Council?
I would like to see them bear their burden, the companies, because I agree. They knew about it, they didn't stop it, and so I think that we need to join the proposed class action settlement. I'll make that as a motion.
And I just would say, I would agree, and hearing from Stell, PFAS. So, yeah, I simply would agree with that, and if I was to have spoken first, and if I could make a motion, I'd be doing the same thing. I think that, and I would guess I'd want to hear from you, Kevin. I'm assuming you agree that we should move forward with joining this lawsuit.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't see the city on its own being able to litigate or sue a settlement to 3M and DuPont at this point. A lot of this stemmed from the city of Stewart, and it's been ongoing for about 6 years now to get to this point. So I would make that recommendation.
And thank you. I value your input.
Second.
Well, go ahead. Say it again.
So that's my motion, is that we direct the city to include us in the PFAS public water system settlement and do future testing, do the testing required.
Second.
And just to note, we will come back with a contract and the actual expense to do the testing.
Okay.
So
Very
head
good.
that-
Very
Head
good.
that way.
I have a motion from Member Nelson, a second from Member Cole. Roll call vote.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Cole?
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Thank you. And no, just so you know, Stan, we didn't vote to get sued. We voted. City Manager.
Petitions and requests.
I don't think we have too many out there that haven't spoken. Okay. No, that's right. She didn't speak in the first one.
Tony Schifolo, the historic Norwood House on Tropic Street. I want to tell you a little story. I didn't plan to do this, so there is no script for me to go off on. I want to talk about density and rental units. I bought a historic house that was a single-family dwelling, even though it's large. And many members of the family have lived in this house over the years, extended family even. And I met a woman since I bought the house who grew up in the house next door. And the reason why it is a 3-unit multifamily unit is because her grandfather built the house. And then the daughter with her children came home to live. So he subdivided the big house. And then the children got bigger and louder. And so he built another little unit off to the side. And the single family, extended though they were, lived there. Then recently, someone bought the house, took out all the handwork, woodwork and things and tile that the grandfather had done, totally destroyed any historical significance of this house, and rents it. He's an owner now who lives in California, and the people who live there have dogs. They breed them in a little tiny apartment. They park their cars. There are as many as 6 cars and 2 pickup trucks in the front yard between my fence and the corner of the lot. And these 2 houses make up the whole lot. If you go down Tropic Street, the Norwood house is one side and this 3-unit house is the other. The guy walks his dogs without a leash. They chase my cat. They come up on my porch. He doesn't have much respect for the community or his neighbors. He's a renter. What does he care? So I think when I get up here and talk about gentrification and high density in my neighborhood and a lot of multi-family, multi-units being built, I want to think about those kind of things and the impact. I want you to think about those kind of things and the impact it has on the people who live there.
Thank you. Anybody else? I think there's only one possibility. No? Okay. Move on to mayor's report.
Mayor and council reports, yes, sir.
How about we'll start Member Stokel and work this way.
Thank you. I attended the Florida League of Cities. As I told you guys before, I'm on the land use committee. I joined that one specifically for Live Local. It was presented as one of the potential priorities. Typically during those meetings, we have 3 over the course of fall, and the group will meet to discuss the options. We had like 8 different options. In our last meeting, we voted on our 2 top priorities. As much as I wanted and advocated for Live Local to be one of those, it was not. And the reason for that being was there was some discussion on the Live Local was passed. Primarily, it was a big project of the current Senate president, and she has 1 more year. So there was some discussion on maybe just letting it sit for a year and then trying to pick it back up next year. I tried to say, you know, this doesn't have to be a us against them. It was more of a, can we discuss some clarification and get more direction from them? But ultimately, once the committee voted, the top 2 priorities ended up being sovereign immunity, which it has been one of the priorities in the past, but basically, as it stands right now, we have limits. It's $200,000 per person and $300,000 per incident. There has been proposed legislation to raise those caps to the millions, which would really impact us as a city. So they wanted that to be a priority. So that's one of them right now. And then the second one, which I don't know too much about, is the mobility plans, which I do think could impact us moving forward. And it's something they support, but basically, as cities are getting developed and more developed, having alternative modes of transportation. And what I think is interesting so far from some of the research, there are things that we would need to do if we hit 50,000 in our population, which I don't know if we're there yet, but if we're not, we will be there. We're pretty, so what that priority would entail would provide more clarity and direction as to what we need to do as a municipality for alternative modes of transportation. So those are the 2 that are there. That's not to say that There might be some discussion regarding Live Local, but I don't think the league, the Florida League as a whole, is going to take it on as one of their top priorities. So that's the update right now. The legislative conference is happening next month, and so I'll know more about, there's 5 different committees, so I'm just on the land use, so I'll be able to inform you guys more later this year on what those other priorities will be.
Just for clarification, on the Live Local, the League of Cities just wants to let it settle for a year?
I think there'll still be some discussion, but it won't be one of the, so when they go to advocate in Tallahassee and us as a group, we pick our top priorities. They did not want it to be one of their top priorities right now at this point in time. You can argue difference of opinions as to why that is. I tried to argue my case, but I still plan to do some of my own work on it, just to try to get some more of that clarification. But I felt like there was a very much a strong, you don't want to bring it back to the table. It could potentially be worse for you, depending on how it's framed. I never want to come at something as it's us against them. It was more of let's work together and provide more clarity to make sure that the results that you're wanting and we're hoping for are actually happening. So it was a little disappointing when it happened for me personally, but yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. I still I'm going to do what I can.
I can see their concern with the confusion that's still out there. And as I said earlier to the young lady, that I'd be surprised if there's not litigation with this quick, which might sort some things out. But I am a little disappointed that the League of Cities doesn't go up there. I don't care if they do a thing with it, except to put it on their list as one of our top 2 concerns, because I can't think of a thing going on or an issue going on in our state right now that affects more people and affects more cities. And even if they weren't to do anything except, we want to make sure you see that this is one of our top 2 concerns, whether we do anything about it or not. We don't want you to think that this isn't on the front burner.
Yeah, and I will say that's the challenging part, because the league acts at the direction of who's sitting on the committees, which I agree with. Unfortunately, I felt like the discussion that happened within the committee, there was a lot of fear and like, let's just wait. And then again, this is my own personal opinion. I feel like whoever was on the committee, it may not be impacting them as much. Either they're built out or whatnot. But there was a very, very good presentation that was given by one of the cities that I'm trying to get the PowerPoint on, that explained in detail a lot of the different various impacts. Unfortunately, I just don't think we got enough votes.
Yep. Well, you can only say what you can say. Vice Mayor.
Not a whole lot. I had a couple of, other than preaching, I had a couple of speaking engagement for different affairs over the last few weeks, and got the church is putting on something on Saturday to keep our community involved and to make sure that everybody stays healthy and stays safe. So our wonderful Titusville Police Department will be participating in it so that we can keep the community involved. That's where we are.
Thank you. And Vice Mayor and Member Nelson and Member Cole, and I know one of us was at work, but we got to go to the inclusionary playground yesterday, the groundbreaking. And I know that when I got the chance to say something, the thing I wanted to say most was no one should come to a playground and have to watch. And I think the kids who were there will benefit from this greatly. And that was really certainly a special time in my week, if not longer. And I just wanted to add, I've had it written down. I know that when we used to have street parties, Friday Night Lights, whatever we used to call it, that the downtown merchants were the ones who oversaw that and got that done. And I think we've lost some key people in downtown merchants and had some crazier things happen. But there doesn't seem to be a real effort or desire to do that. And I can tell you that is one thing that comes up more and more to me from people on the street. When can we have another party? We haven't had a party in a long time. I also think our night out down at Titus Landing got people talking, because that was just so much fun, and that was well done on our part, and our police department's part, and our fire department's part. But it was just so much fun and so many people. So I guess my question is, or something just to ponder, is there anything we can do within the city to say, hey, because somebody asked me, well, why can't you do it? I said, well, I don't know all those answers. I don't know if we have it, financed or how that works or what it costs, but I'm not even looking for a great answer except to say that, I would like to see if we can participate in helping make this happen. Any input, or just, it's not something we do?
The CRA used to fund, to help
That got
fund
knocked
the
out.
merchants associations, street parties, and regulations changed and said that we were no longer allowed to do that, so we stopped funding.
That's good input.
And when we stopped funding, it stopped the event. The most expensive part of having a street party on the location that we've had them previously is the MOT, the closing of the roads,
Closing the road.
which runs between $6,000 to $8,000.
Say that again, how many?
$6,000 to $8,000.
I think it costs that to open it, not close it. Member Sokol.
Yep, to that point, so I know we can't fund. Is there a way that we could do a partnership where we could potentially waive certain costs versus, or would that not be allowed?
Now, the MOT has to be done because it is a state road,
Okay,
and security that needs to be provided by the police department if it is a certain event that has to be done.
so it sounds like the only potential alternative would be to not do it on the state road and maybe explore.
We have done that.
Yeah, we did. I'm with you.
And the other thing we
My
could,
face looked the same. It just,
Okay.
just didn't work.
Okay.
yeah,
Just
Well,
didn't work.
maybe as we get more.
Well, it's
growth
it's
and
just something I
development
think that we
downtown.
should maybe boot around a little
Yeah.
bit and see and brainstorm.
Yeah.
Because it is a happy question. I'm glad to get that question that
Yeah.
people want to get back downtown or Titus Landing. Just getting together. I'm glad that, because, I'm not sure we've had one help.
Now,
since the
now,
pandemic.
years.
now, I will tell you that there's a couple of the current proprietors in the downtown that do events themselves, which are, they bring music down
Yeah.
and things like that. They have special permits to do that, and they do draw a fairly decent group.
Harold, didn't we do?
Your microphone, so they can hear you.
Didn't we do a couple of, wasn't our chili cook-off downtown this time?
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we did. I don't remember us paying $6,000 to close the road, but we did
Yeah,
our,
you was with
we
us
did
when
our
we did
chili
our chili
cook-off. You were
cook-off.
in our Rotary when we
You
did
did
that.
pay $8,000 to close the road.
I think back
You
then
didn't make
it
the
was
profit you thought you
4.
made.
No, I don't guess we did.
Well, it was cheaper back then. It was probably 4 or 5.
No, ma'am, it's always been about the same. It's the same roads.
So do we have any interest from Titus Landing, or is there a point of contact that, because the night out was
It was a blast.
fantastic.
It was a blast.
And I'm just
So-
thinking that would be a good venue
So
for
the
it.
concept of why we did the National Night Out, because it is set up for that.
Yeah.
And the design of Titus Landing to have that portion of the public use area was designed for that. And the hope was that the mall themselves, the proprietors of the businesses there, would get together and have events.
It would seem that might be a partnership we could do because you don't have to close the road. So there's that $6,000 to $8,000 that we don't have to spend. And they had to benefit that night from all the people being there. They had to, especially after they ran out of hot dogs.
Now, I will tell
And
you, Titus
hamburgers.
Landing did have a point of contact. She has since left, so I don't know.
Okay.
Well, that's an angle to pursue. I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah,
Member Nelson.
totally agree.
So I have one good thing and one, yeah. So I guess my question is there something we can do with our procedure to stop the burger robs problem coming again or having another problem? And I don't know what that is. My thought was you turn around and have communication with the owner and the contractor at the same time. And I don't know what that looks like, but I hated us getting slammed on Facebook. I don't read Facebook. I don't like Facebook. But people were kind enough to send me all the posts. And of course, I knew the protests out front. But I think it seems to be a breakdown in communication, so I'm sort of like, what can we do to stop it from happening?
On the application itself,
Okay,
it says, who do you want us to talk to? So
Okay.
the owner has decided who they want us to talk to. And most of the time, it is the general contractor.
is there maybe a way we can say the general contractor plus the owner, or?
It's the owner who puts the application in and designates the general contractor.
But I'm not sure they understand that the contractor's not always being honest with them. I'm just trying to figure
No,
out
and
a
I feel
way.
like to that point, I feel like unless you're living in the permitting world, some of those words and terminology and what's used can be very difficult to navigate. So my request would be, if we can do something that's a little bit more proactive or educational in terms of, these are things like little short videos or something that we can try to do our best to proactively say, if you're going through the process, here's things to keep in mind, or
So what we do is we
Okay.
do a pre-application. So whatever your application is, we bring in the owner, the general contractor, whoever they want to attend, and then the staff, the appropriate staff is there. We answer any questions that they have. We put out the requirements that we are going to need in order to accomplish things. We talk about how to electronically communicate. So the procedures are described in the pre-application process.
I guess my concern would be they might not even know what questions they're supposed to ask.
If you have a general contractor there, you would think you do.
Yeah, but sometimes I feel like that's another part of the issue.
Oh.
And anything that we can just do, some citizens might not even know that they need a general contractor, depending on what they need to do for their permit. I don't know. I'm just big on the educational piece.
I could give you a response on some of this. The building department has been processing thousands of permits, a lot more than they've ever experienced. And this was just one.
Yeah.
And so apparently it was a miscommunication between the contractor and the property owner or the business owner. And we can't control every one of those situations, but our process is pretty efficient. Our building staff works with applicants, especially have any questions, to know what they need to submit. And it's through that formal process is when they find out what they are missing, if anything, and before they can issue that permit. That communication was provided to that particular, in this case, to that contractor several times and reiterated several times. And so there's only a certain amount of time where we can really kind of handheld someone through the process if they're not reading what we're giving them, basically. So we can show you the examples of a lot of comments being repeated over and over. Now, that was resolved. We reached out to the property owner, or the business owner rather, and sat down with their new contractor and resolved it. And so they were issued their permit. But again, we issue, just that staff, the building staff issues thousands of permits. And this was just one case.
Okay.
And I think that's what would be helpful, at least from my standpoint, is if we could educate and say, we are doing thousands or however many we're doing, just so the public knows. I think sometimes they think that, oh, there's maybe just 20 or whatnot. And I think that knowing what we're doing as a city and educating them in that part, and then if we do have something of like repetitive comments that seem to be naturally occurring, anything that we can do.
So if I could refer you to the community development, we have the highlights of each department. We do talk about the building department and how many permits we issue. All that information was provided. And it is on all those videos from each department are on our website.
So are the people able to email staff, say, in this particular case, could the owner have emailed staff and said, hey, does he know that he can do that? To find out what they're missing.
We could have, I think we did provide him the letter, so.
Yeah, the business owner could have reached out to the staff. Well, so they hired a contractor to represent them in order to do what the professional who they hired in order to get their permit. So I think they relied on, and that's typically what business or property owners will do. They hire the contractor or specialist to do that, and sometimes they'll be involved. But, in this particular case, they had the opportunity, the business owner, to reach out to us directly.
Yeah.
Find out for sure what themselves what was being communicated between the city staff and their contractor.
Okay.
All right, did you have a second thing?
I have a second thing, and I have to say this because I thought this was cool. Went to the Boys and Girls Club breakfast with Kayla and our Titusville Police Department back there, looking very quiet, and a couple other people. And the girl that spoke is a news anchor in Charleston, and she is from the Men's Boys and Girls Club. The story is she was not allowed out of her house because there was a murder in her front yard. And I think Matt knew her. And she's grown up, very articulate, very beautiful young lady, very sweet. And it just sort of reminded me of why you spend the time with the kids.
Absolutely.
And what their potential is. So I think all of us were sniffing by the time she got done. No tears, but we were close. So it was just cool. It
That's awesome.
reminds me of
Why you do what you do.
yeah,
Why you do what you do.
and why we would encourage other people to do the same.
Absolutely. Mr. Herman?
Well, I want to thank the mayor, the vice mayor, and Councilman Nelson for attending our groundbreaking for the all-inclusive playground. And we actually started construction. And
I can't believe
I've
it.
got Virginia putting it on our schedules that our grand opening, we're already planned our grand opening for January the 20th, which is a Saturday. And we're going to do it for 4 hours. We're going to make a big thing out of this. We're going to have food. We're going to have a band. We're going to have everything out there. So, I mean, this is a big thing for
Big deal.
Titusville because we're building a $300,000 all-inclusive playground. It is. And if you were out there, like everybody, because Jolene helped get us the funds, if you were out there and you saw the kids that were there for the groundbreaking, it tears your heart apart, you know, and it's really good for us to be able to do something like that here in Titusville. So thank you for your
It's
support.
awesome. Very awesome.
And
Go ahead.
Commissioner Pearson and I got to drive the backhoe.
Don't tell anybody that. You didn't
Yes.
have your license. You don't have your backhoe license.
She got excited while she was
I was like,
But as it's
Oh,
been said
Rita was
before, she
worse.
started doing that when she was 4 years old. And that's a whole nother story. City manager?
Just information items, the boards and commission recognitions ceremony is this Thursday at 6 PM. And then my annual evaluation is as part of your report. And I do appreciate the staff that we have that works with us every day. They're very professional, and they make us all look good. So thank you.
City attorney? All right, well, with that, nothing else? Dismissed. Meeting adjourned.